The enigmatic professor. In the heart of the Galactic University of Traxxas, the campus pulsed with energy, much like the stars twinkling outside its glass towers. Here, students from various planets converged, each with dreams of unraveling the universe's mysteries. Luke Ashford, a bright-eyed human, stood at the threshold of his final year, feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation as he prepared to embark on a journey unlike any he had experienced before. Today was the day he would attend the first lecture of Advanced Interstellar History, a course that promised to be more than just a study of ancient civilizations. For Luke, the allure of the class lay not just in the promise of uncovering the secrets of long-lost alien cultures, but in the enigmatic figure who taught it, Dr. Sartfer. Rumors about her were plentiful, each tale more fantastical than the last. She was an Alari, a rare species known for their striking beauty and deep emotional intelligence. Stories of her radiant blue skin, which seemed to shimmer like the surface of a distant planet, and her piercing silver eyes had spread throughout the university like wildfire. More than once, Luke had overheard classmates whispering about her brilliance, but what intrigued him the most was the way she could bring history to life, weaving narratives that resonated with emotion and depth. As Luke stepped into the lecture hall, he was greeted by the sight of a grand space designed to accommodate hundreds. The room was filled with students chatting excitedly, their voices creating a low hum that echoed off the walls. Despite the size of the hall, Luke felt a strange intimacy in the atmosphere, as if the very architecture encouraged the sharing of secrets and knowledge. He took a seat near the front, his heart racing with anticipation. He glanced at the clock above the door, just 5 minutes until the class began. The anticipation was palpable. Luke had spent countless hours reading about the Ends, the Maiden, and the lost cities of Thuth, but nothing could prepare him for the moment Dr. Tver would walk into the room. He tapped his pen nervously against his notebook, his thoughts drifting back to her. What was it about her that commanded such fascination? Was it simply her beauty, or was there something deeper that drew people to her? Suddenly, the room fell silent. Dr. Sartfer had arrived. As she entered, the atmosphere shifted, crackling with an electric energy that made Luke's skin tingle. She moved with a grace that seemed otherworldly, her robes flowing like liquid velvet. Her radiant blue skin glowed softly under the hall's lights, casting an enchanting hue around her. But it was her eyes that captivated him. Their silver depth seemed to hold entire galaxies, stirring emotions Luke didn't quite understand. "Welcome," she said, her voice a melodic blend of warmth and authority. "This is Advanced Interstellar History. If you are here for an easy grade, I suggest you leave now." A ripple of nervous laughter ran through the room, but no one moved. Luke's pulse quickened. There was a challenge in her tone, a dare to engage with the material on a level that transcended mere academic pursuit. As she continued, Luke hung on her every word, her voice drawing him in like a moth to a flame. "We will be covering civilizations long forgotten, cultures whose influence still echoes in the stars, even though their names have been lost to time." Her gaze swept across the room, lingering on Luke for a brief moment, igniting a spark of something indescribable within him. History is not simply a collection of dates and events. It is a map, a constellation of choices, power, and emotion. If you wish to understand it, you must be willing to look beyond the surface. Luke's heart raced. Dr. Tver's passion was palpable, infusing the air with life. It was as if she were not just teaching a subject, but sharing pieces of her soul. Her insights transformed the distant past into a vivid tapestry woven with the threads of human experience, and he felt a deep yearning to learn more, not just about history but about her. As the lecture progressed, Dr. Tver spoke of ancient alien species that once thrived across the galaxy. Her tales were rich with tragedy and triumph, each story painting a picture of the rise and fall of civilizations. Luke felt transported through time, walking alongside the Ends as they established their great empires and witnessing the events that led to their mysterious decline. Dr. Tver had a unique ability to infuse every lesson with a sense of wonder and urgency, as if she were inviting her students to partake in the very essence of history itself. When the class finally came to an end, students began to shuffle out, their minds buzzing with the weight of what they had just experienced. Luke, however, remained seated, his notebook filled with notes and questions that clamored for attention. He was drawn to Dr. Fur, who was collecting her materials at the front of the room, her aura still lingering in the air like a warm breeze. As he approached her, Luke's heart raced. Up close, she was even more mesmerizing. Her skin glimmered softly in the light, and her silver eyes sparkled with a depth that was both intimidating and inviting. "Dr. Fur," he began, his voice trembling slightly, "I wanted to ask you about your lecture today. It was incredible." She looked up, a hint of surprise flickering in her gaze. "Luke Ashford," she said, a smile gracing her lips. "Your paper on the political structure of the Triad Dominion was quite insightful. I wasn't expecting such a nuanced understanding from a human student." Caught off guard by her acknowledgement, Luke blinked. "Thank you, Dr. Fur," he managed to stammer. "I was just wondering if you could recommend additional readings on the fall of the Meridian. You mentioned their downfall being linked to a cultural shift, but I couldn't find much in the library." Her expression softened, and for a fleeting moment, Luke glimpsed something vulnerable behind her confident facade. "You're quite observant, Luke," she said, lowering her voice as if sharing a secret. "The fall of the Meridian is complex. Most scholars overlook the emotional undercurrents of their decline, how societal pressures to conform led to their collapse. But that's not something you'll find in standard texts." He leaned in, intrigued. "Do you think emotions shape history more than we realize?" Her silver eyes sparkled with a mix of admiration and sadness. "Emotions shape everything, Luke," she whispered, the words hanging in the air between them. In that moment, time felt suspended. He could sense an invisible thread connecting them, a shared understanding that transcended the boundaries of professor and student. Just as quickly as it had appeared, the moment faded. Dr. Fur straightened, her professional demeanor returning like a shield. "I'll send you some additional resources," she said, her tone now cool and composed. "But remember, not everything worth knowing can be found in books." Luke nodded, speechless as he watched her turn away, her robes flowing behind her like the tail of a comet. He remained in the empty lecture hall, feeling a profound shift within himself. His fascination with interstellar history had drawn him to this class, but now it was something deeper, something electric that revolved around Dr. Fur. As he left the hall, his mind whirled with thoughts of ancient civilizations, lost empires, and the enigmatic professor who had captivated him in ways he had never anticipated. Walking across the campus under the fading light of distant stars, he wondered if this was merely the beginning of an academic pursuit or the start of something far greater, something that pulsed with potential and promise. The days ahead would reveal secrets, and Luke felt certain that Dr. Fur would be at the center of it all. The hidden depths of knowledge. The days that followed Luke Ashford's first encounter with Dr. Fur felt both exhilarating and bewildering. Every lecture was a new adventure, an invitation to explore the vast landscapes of history and emotion. As he settled into the rhythm of the semester, he found himself drawn not only to the content of the class, but to the enigmatic professor herself. Her presence lingered in his thoughts long after each session ended, a magnetic force that pulled him into a world of curiosity and intrigue. Each time he entered the lecture hall, he felt a thrill of anticipation. Dr. Fur's lectures were unlike anything he had ever experienced. With every word, she painted vivid portraits of alien civilizations, their triumphs and tragedies echoing through the ages. The way she intertwined emotion with historical facts transformed the way Luke viewed the past. He was no longer just a passive observer. He was an active participant in the unfolding narrative, compelled to seek deeper meanings hidden within the ancient tales. One particular afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the tall windows of the lecture hall, casting a warm glow on the rows of desks, Dr. Fur delved into the story of the Fulans, a race renowned for their unparalleled artistic achievements. "The Fulans," she began, her voice a smooth cadence that resonated in the hushed room, were not just artists, they were emotional historians. Every piece they created was infused with the essence of their experiences, the joy of love, the pain of loss, the tumult of conflict. Their art was a reflection of their society's heart. Luke was captivated. The idea that art could serve as a vessel for collective emotion fascinated him. He raised his hand, a burning question on the tip of his tongue. Dr. Fair, do you think our own history is reflected in the art we create today? Can we understand our civilization through the stories we tell? Her silver eyes sparkled with delight at his question. Absolutely, Luke. Art transcends time and culture. It is a universal language that captures the essence of a people. Just as the Fulans left behind echoes of their emotional journey, so too do we. Look at your own world. What stories do your artists tell? What emotions are woven into your music, your literature, your visual arts? Luke pondered her words, feeling a surge of inspiration. He began to see his own society in a new light, recognizing the emotional undercurrents that shaped the human experience. As the lecture progressed, he found himself scribbling notes furiously, driven by an insatiable desire to dig deeper into the connection between emotion and history. After class, as students filed out, Luke hesitated. He could feel the pull of Dr. Fair's presence like a beacon calling him closer. She was gathering her materials, a focused look on her face. With a rush of courage, he approached her desk once more. Dr. Fair, he said, his voice steady but filled with eagerness. I wanted to explore the emotional narratives behind some of the artworks we discussed today. Do you have any recommendations on where I could start? She looked up, her expression softening. Ah, the emotional narratives, she repeated, a hint of a smile on her lips. That is a topic worth exploring. I can send you some readings on Fulan art and its societal impact. But more importantly, I encourage you to seek out the artists themselves if you can. Their stories often hold the keys to understanding the emotions behind their work. His heart raced at the suggestion. I would love that, he replied, feeling a sense of connection building between them. For a moment, it felt as if they were sharing a secret, a mutual understanding that transcended the typical professor-student relationship. But, she added, her voice becoming serious, remember, Luke, that the journey of discovery can be as significant as the knowledge itself. Be prepared for what you might uncover about yourself in the process. With those words, she turned away, leaving Luke standing at her desk, his mind swirling with possibilities. What did she mean by that? He found himself contemplating the depths of his own emotions and experiences, wondering how they might influence his understanding of history. As he walked back to his dormitory, he felt a newfound determination to dive into his studies, not just academically but personally. The following weeks unfolded in a whirlwind of lectures, readings, and late-night discussions with his classmates. Luke began to immerse himself in the world of Fulan art, devouring every resource Dr. Fair provided. He explored the emotional nuances that shaped their masterpieces, discovering how their experiences of love, loss, and conflict were expressed through vibrant colors and intricate designs. Each piece of art told a story, and with each story, he found fragments of himself reflected back. But it wasn't just the academic pursuit that consumed his thoughts, it was Dr. Fair herself. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her than met the eye. During their conversations, he sensed a vulnerability hidden beneath her polished exterior, a longing to connect that mirrored his own. He found himself wanting to understand her, not just as a professor, but as a person. One quiet evening, as he sat in the university library surrounded by stacks of books, Luke felt the familiar tug of inspiration. He began to write, not just about Fulan art, but about the emotional currents that flowed through the universe, currents that connected all beings, human and alien alike. As he penned his thoughts, he realized he was writing not just for his assignments, but for himself, exploring the intersections of emotion, history, and identity. Days turned into weeks, and as the semester progressed, Luke's interactions with Dr. Fair became more frequent and deeper. He found himself lingering after class, asking questions that veered off the syllabus and into the realm of philosophy. Together, They pondered the role of emotion in shaping civilizations and the ways history often repeated itself. Each conversation felt like a dance, weaving their thoughts together in a tapestry of understanding. One afternoon, after an intense discussion on the fall of the Zandari Empire, a civilization that crumbled under the weight of its own hubris, Luke felt a surge of courage. "Dr. Tver," he began, hesitating slightly. "You often speak about the lessons of history. What do you think we, as humans, can learn from the past? Are we destined to repeat the same mistakes?" Her gaze turned serious, a thoughtful expression crossing her features. "History is a teacher, Luke, but it is not a straightforward one. We have the ability to learn, to adapt, and to grow, yet many choose to remain blind to the lessons right in front of them. It is emotion that often clouds our judgment: fear, ambition, pride. These forces can lead to both creation and destruction." His heart raced at her words. There was a weight to her insights that resonated deeply within him. But how do we break free from that cycle? How do we ensure we don't repeat the mistakes of the past? Dr. Tver leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "By confronting our own emotions, by understanding their power. When we embrace our fears and acknowledge our desires, we begin to see the world with clarity. Only then can we truly learn from history." Luke felt as if she was speaking directly to his soul, and for a fleeting moment he saw a glimpse of the depths behind her silver eyes. "Do you ever confront your own fears, Dr. Tver?" he asked, curiosity and concern mingling in his tone. Her expression shifted, a flicker of vulnerability crossing her features before she composed herself. "All the time, Luke. It is a constant battle. As an Alari, emotions run deep within us, often more so than in other species. We are taught to understand and manage them, but it can be overwhelming." For a brief moment, silence hung between them, heavy with unspoken truths. Luke could feel the connection intensifying, an invisible bond forged through shared understanding. He yearned to reach out, to reassure her that she was not alone in her struggles, but the moment slipped away as quickly as it had arrived. Dr. Tver straightened, her professional facade returning. "Let us keep our focus on the lessons of the Zandari," she said, her tone shifting back to the scholarly. "Their downfall is a stark reminder of what can happen when societies refuse to adapt." As the conversation shifted back to the class material, Luke couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to uncover beneath the surface of Dr. Tver's words. He left the lecture hall that day with a sense of purpose, determined to not only excel in his studies, but to dig deeper into the mysteries that surrounded the professor. In the following weeks, Luke continued to explore the intersection of emotion and history, dedicating himself to understanding the emotional landscapes that shaped civilizations. He felt as if he were on the verge of a significant discovery, not just academically but personally. Each interaction with Dr. Tver sparked new questions, new insights that drove him forward. One late afternoon, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the campus, Luke made his way to the observatory, a place where he often sought solace. The stars twinkled overhead, their distant light a reminder of the vastness of the universe. As he stood there, he couldn't help but think about Dr. Tver's words and the connection they shared. Would he ever have the courage to confront the depths of their relationship? He felt the weight of unspoken emotions resting heavily on his heart. Little did he know that the next encounter with Dr. Tver would set into motion a chain of events that would challenge everything he thought he knew about history, emotion, and the complexities of their intertwined fates. As the stars began to shimmer more brightly in unraveling connections. As the semester continued, the world around Luke Ashford began to transform into a vivid tapestry woven with threads of history, emotion, and an undeniable connection to his enigmatic professor, Dr. Tver. Each class felt like an expedition into uncharted territories of knowledge, where every lecture ignited his curiosity and challenged his perceptions of both the past and his place within it. Yet, amid this academic fervor, the question of their relationship loomed large in his mind. Was he merely a student eager for knowledge, or was there something more profound at play? One crisp morning, Luke sat in the university courtyard, a popular spot for students to gather and discuss their studies. The sun bathed the campus in a warm glow, and the air buzzed with excitement as classmates shared their ideas and theories. He was surrounded by friends, yet his thoughts drifted elsewhere. Today marked a pivotal moment, the release of a special project that would allow students to present their research in a way that reflected their personal insights and emotional connections to the subject matter. It was an opportunity to shine, and Luke knew he wanted to explore the emotional narratives behind the Thulin art he had studied so diligently. With a renewed sense of purpose, he spent the afternoon sketching out ideas in his notebook. As he wrote, he could almost hear Dr. Furr's voice echoing in his mind, urging him to dig deeper and embrace the emotional weight of history. He envisioned a presentation that would not only highlight the artistic achievements of the Thulins, but also explore how their emotions shaped their creative expression. The challenge was to convey the complexity of their experiences in a way that resonated with his classmates, and perhaps with Dr. Furr. Days passed as Luke poured his heart and soul into his project, and with each passing moment, he felt himself growing closer to understanding not just the Thulins, but the deeper truths about himself and his connection with Dr. Furr. As he worked late into the night, surrounded by stacks of books and colorful sketches, he felt a sense of liberation. This project was not just about fulfilling academic requirements. It was about exploring the very essence of what it meant to be human, and, more specifically, how emotions influence the legacies left behind by civilizations long gone. The day of the presentation arrived, and the lecture hall buzzed with energy as students filed in, each carrying the weight of their unique insights and research. Luke felt a mix of excitement and nerves as he prepared to share his findings with his classmates. He had invited Dr. Furr to attend, hoping that his passion for the subject would shine through and resonate with her. As the clock ticked closer to the start of the class, he could hardly focus on the presentations that preceded his. His heart raced with anticipation and anxiety as he awaited his turn. Finally, it was time. Luke stepped onto the stage, the spotlight illuminating him as he faced the sea of eager faces. He took a deep breath, recalling the conversations he had shared with Dr. Furr about the importance of emotion in art and history. With his heart pounding in his chest, he began his presentation. Today, I want to share with you the emotional narratives of the Thulins, he started, his voice steadying as he found his rhythm. They were not just artists, they were storytellers of their own existence. Through their art, they expressed the complexities of their emotions, the joy, the sorrow, the love, and the pain. Their creations were reflections of their society, serving as a bridge between past and present. As he spoke, he felt the energy in the room shift. He painted a picture of the Thulin civilization, their rise to artistic prominence, and the emotional turbulence that accompanied their achievements. Each slide displayed stunning images of Thulin artwork, vibrant and alive with color, capturing the essence of their struggles and triumphs. He shared stories of how their art was often a response to the trials they faced, how the chaos of their society manifested in their creative expressions. The room fell silent as he spoke of a particularly poignant piece depicting a great tragedy in Thulin history, a reminder of how emotions could both inspire greatness and lead to downfall. Throughout the presentation, Luke occasionally glanced toward the back of the room, where Dr. Furr sat, her eyes focused intently on him. He could see a flicker of approval in her gaze, fueling his confidence. With each passing moment, he felt a deepening connection, as if he were not just sharing information, but engaging in a conversation that transcended words. As he concluded, Luke's heart soared. The Thulins remind us that our emotions are powerful. They shape our experiences and leave lasting legacies, whether through art, history, or personal connections. It is our responsibility to acknowledge these emotions and learn from them. Only then can we understand the past and pave the way for a more compassionate future. The room erupted in applause, and Luke beamed with pride. He had poured his heart into this presentation, and it had resonated. But as he stepped off the stage, his thoughts returned to Dr. Furr. He longed for her feedback, for a glimpse into her thoughts about his work. After the class concluded, students gathered around to discuss his presentation, but Luke's eyes were drawn to Dr. Fur, who approached him with a warm smile. "That was exceptional, Luke," she said, her voice rich with admiration. "You've managed to capture the essence of the Thulins beautifully. I could feel the emotional weight in your words." "Thank you, Dr. Fur," he replied, his heart racing. "I really wanted to explore the connections between their art and their emotions. It felt important." "And it is," she said, her expression softening. "You've touched upon a fundamental truth. Art is a reflection of society. When we understand the emotions behind it, we can truly grasp the depth of history." Their eyes locked for a moment, and in that exchange, Luke felt a magnetic pull. There was a shared understanding between them, a connection that transcended the confines of student and teacher. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said regarding emotions shaping history," he confessed, feeling emboldened. "It's made me reflect on my own experiences and how they influence my perspective." Dr. Fur nodded, her silver eyes glimmering with insight. "Self-reflection is crucial, Luke. Our experiences shape us, and recognizing that allows us to engage with the world more authentically. The journey of understanding is as significant as the knowledge itself." As they spoke, a group of students approached, eager to discuss his presentation further. Luke found himself torn between the conversation with his classmates and the undeniable connection he shared with Dr. Fur. He wanted to delve deeper into their discussion, but he also felt the pull of his peers clamoring for his attention. "Perhaps we can continue this conversation later," he suggested, a hint of hope lacing his words. "Of course," she replied, her smile warm and encouraging. "I would like that very much." With a sense of elation, Luke rejoined his friends, but his mind remained focused on Dr. Fur. The exchange had left him invigorated, and as he navigated through discussions with his classmates, he couldn't help but feel that their relationship was evolving into something richer and more complex. Over the next few weeks, Luke and Dr. Fur continued to engage in meaningful discussions after class. Their conversations became a sanctuary where ideas flowed freely, and the barriers of academia began to dissolve. They explored the nuances of history, art, and emotion, diving deeper into topics that resonated with them both. Each interaction revealed layers of complexity in Dr. Fur's character, and Luke found himself more entranced by her enigmatic persona. One afternoon, as they discussed the emotional impact of historical events, Luke decided to broach a subject that had been weighing heavily on his mind. "Dr. Fur," he began cautiously, "you shared so much about the cultures we study, but what about your own experiences? How have your emotions shaped your perspective on history?" Her expression shifted, a flicker of vulnerability crossing her features. For a brief moment, Luke saw a glimpse of the inner world she had kept hidden, a world filled with untold stories and unshared emotions. "As an Alari, I've always been aware of the emotional currents that flow through every interaction," she said slowly. "We are taught to embrace our feelings, to understand the depths of our connections. But it can be overwhelming, especially in a world that often dismisses such depths." Luke listened intently, captivated by her openness. "Do you find it difficult to balance your emotions with the expectations of your role as a professor?" "Yes," she admitted, a shadow crossing her face. "There is a pressure to maintain professionalism, to present a facade of detachment. But inside, I am constantly navigating a sea of emotions. I have to remind myself that these feelings are not weaknesses but strengths. They connect us, enrich our understanding of the world." Their eyes locked once more, and Luke felt a surge of empathy. He understood what it was like to grapple with emotions and expectations, and he wanted her to know she wasn't alone. "You're not just a professor to me, Dr. Fur. You're a guide, someone who inspires me to explore not just history, but the very nature of what it means to be human." A soft smile crossed her lips, and for a moment, it felt as if the world around them faded away. "Thank you, Luke. That means more to me than you know." Their connection deepened in that exchange, an unspoken agreement to continue exploring the emotional depths of their shared journey. As the weeks turned into months, the lines between their academic relationship and something more began to blur. Luke found himself contemplating his feelings for Dr. Fair, feelings that went beyond admiration and respect. Yet, even as their bond grew stronger, Luke sensed the weight of unspoken fears lingering in the air. Dr. Fair often carried herself with an air of mystery, and he wondered what lay behind her guarded demeanor. He felt an urge to uncover those hidden layers, to help her confront whatever fears held her back. One evening, as they strolled through the university gardens, Luke finally mustered the courage to address the elephant in the room. "Dr. Fair," he began, his voice steady but filled with concern. "I can see that there's a part of you that you keep hidden. You talk about emotions and their significance in history, but what about your own feelings? Are there things you're afraid to confront?" She paused, her gaze shifting to the stars above. "It's complicated, Luke," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "As a professor, I'm expected to be a source of knowledge and strength. It's easier to teach others than to confront my own vulnerabilities." Luke felt a pang of empathy. "But you don't have to be alone in this. I'm here for you. We can explore those fears together, just as we've explored history and art." Dr. Fair turned to him, her silver eyes reflecting the light of the stars. "You are wise beyond your years, Luke. It's a rare gift to find someone willing to face these depths. But I worry, what if opening up changes everything?" "Change can be scary, but it can also be liberating," Luke responded earnestly. "What if confronting those fears allows you to connect with others on a deeper level? You have so much to offer, not just as a professor, but as a person." A flicker of emotion passed across her face, and Luke held his breath, waiting for her response. Finally, she nodded slowly. "Perhaps you're right. It is time to confront the past, to embrace the emotions that have shaped me." As they stood beneath the starlit sky, Luke felt a sense of hope blossoming within him. He was determined to support Dr. Fair on her journey of self-discovery, just as she had guided him through his own exploration of history and emotion. The path ahead was uncertain, but together, they would navigate the complexities of their intertwined fates, an adventure that promised to challenge their perceptions and deepen their bond in ways they had yet to imagine. Echoes of the past. As the weeks turned into a month, Luke Ashford and Dr. Fair delved deeper into their explorations of history and emotion, both in the classroom and in their increasingly personal conversations. The university campus, with its towering glass buildings and vibrant gardens, became a backdrop for their growing connection. Yet, amid the joy of learning and discovery, Luke sensed an underlying tension in Dr. Fair. He could see how her past shaped her present, and he felt a responsibility to help her confront the shadows that lingered in her heart. One particularly sunny afternoon, after a riveting lecture on the cultural practices of the Vornok, an alien race known for their complex emotional landscapes, Luke invited Dr. Fair for tea in a cozy cafe on campus. It was a favorite spot among students, with fragrant aromas of exotic blends wafting through the air and an atmosphere that encouraged open dialogue. As they settled into a quiet corner, surrounded by the chatter of fellow students, Luke decided it was the perfect moment to broach a subject that had been weighing on his mind. "Dr. Fair," he began, choosing his words carefully, "I've been thinking a lot about the Vornok and their relationship with their emotions. You mentioned how they believed that every feeling, whether joyous or painful, was a thread in the fabric of their society. It made me wonder, how do you see that concept applying to your own life?" Her gaze flickered, a mixture of surprise and contemplation crossing her features. "It's a profound question, Luke. The Vornok understood that emotions connect us, and yet they can also isolate us. In my own life, I have felt both the power and the burden of emotions. There are moments when I embrace my feelings fully, and then there are times when I recoil, afraid of what those emotions might reveal." Luke nodded, feeling a spark of understanding ignite between them. "What are you afraid of revealing?" he asked gently, sensing that she was on the brink of sharing something significant. Dr. Fair took a deep breath, her silver eyes searching the distance as if looking for the right words among the stars. "I have lived a life filled with expectations, both from my species and from my position here. As an Alari, I was taught to harness emotions, to use them as a source of strength and insight, but the weight of those expectations can be suffocating. Sometimes I feel as if I'm a mere reflection of what others want me to be, rather than who I truly am. Luke leaned forward, captivated. I can't imagine how difficult that must be, but you're not just a professor to me. You're a person with your own hopes, fears, and dreams. I want to understand you, not just your lectures. Her gaze met his, a flicker of vulnerability shining through the usual professionalism. You are kind, Luke, and your desire to understand means a great deal. It's just that there are parts of my past that I've kept buried, memories that haunt me and shape my perspective on everything I do. Perhaps sharing those memories could be a way to free yourself, he suggested, his voice soft yet encouraging. We've talked about the importance of emotions in understanding history. Why not apply that to your own narrative? Dr. Tver was silent for a moment, her expression shifting as if she were weighing his words. Finally, she nodded, though a hint of apprehension lingered in her eyes. Very well. I will share with you the echoes of my past, but I ask that you hold them with care. With a steadying breath, she began, her voice low and steady. I was born on the planet Alara, a place renowned for its lush landscapes and vibrant cultures. The Alari are deeply attuned to our emotions. We believe they are the essence of life. However, this sensitivity can be a double-edged sword. When I was young, I witnessed a tragedy that would shape my understanding of emotions forever. Luke leaned in closer, captivated by her story. What happened? A civil conflict erupted on Alara, she continued, her voice tinged with sadness. Two factions clashed, each fueled by their interpretations of what it meant to be Alari. I remember the chaos vividly, the screams, the destruction, the emotions running rampant. It was during this time that I lost someone very dear to me, a mentor who had guided me through the complexities of my own emotions. The weight of her words hung in the air, and Luke could see the pain etched in her features. I can only imagine how hard that must have been, he said gently. How did it change you? Dr. Tver's gaze dropped to her cup, fingers tracing the delicate patterns on the surface. In the aftermath, I buried those emotions. I learned to put on a brave face, to distance myself from the pain. I became focused on my studies, driven by a desire to understand the world around me, while neglecting my own heart. I thought that if I could learn enough about history and emotion, perhaps I could prevent such tragedies from occurring again. Did that work? Luke asked, his voice barely above a whisper. She shook her head slowly, a sad smile gracing her lips. Not entirely. I became adept at analyzing emotions in others, but I struggled to face my own. It wasn't until I came to this university that I began to confront my past, thanks to students like you who challenge me to look beyond the surface. Her honesty struck a chord within Luke. You're not alone in this, Dr. Tver. We all have our struggles, and it's okay to feel vulnerable. It's part of being human, or Alari, in your case. Those emotions are what make us who we are. Dr. Tver looked at him, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. You are wise beyond your years, Luke. Your ability to connect emotions with understanding is a rare gift. I wish more people could see the importance of embracing vulnerability rather than fearing it. As the afternoon sunlight poured into the cafe, casting warm hues around them, Luke felt a profound sense of intimacy growing between them. Thank you for sharing that with me, he said, his voice earnest. I can't imagine how difficult it must have been to confront those memories, but now that you've shared them, I hope you can find some peace in that vulnerability. For a moment, they sat in silence, absorbing the weight of their conversation. Luke could see a flicker of hope in Dr. Tver's eyes, a glimmer of the woman who was beginning to embrace her true self. The atmosphere around them felt charged, as if the air itself was acknowledging the significance of this moment. Perhaps, she said finally, her voice a little steadier, this is the beginning of something new for me. It's a step toward reclaiming my emotions rather than allowing them to control me. Luke smiled, feeling a swell of pride for her courage. "And I'll be here every step of the way, if you'll let me." As they finished their tea and exited the cafe, the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the courtyard. The sky transformed into a canvas of oranges, pinks, and purples, a breathtaking display that echoed the emotional journey they had just begun. Over the next few weeks, their conversations deepened, and Luke watched as Dr. Tver began to open up more, sharing anecdotes from her life that showcased the intricacies of her character. They often found themselves wandering through the university gardens, where the beauty of nature mirrored the beauty of their emerging friendship. With every shared story, Luke felt a growing admiration for Dr. Tver, not just as a professor, but as a complex individual navigating her own emotional landscape. One evening, as they strolled beneath the twinkling stars, Luke could no longer suppress the feelings that had blossomed within him. "Dr. Tver," he began, his heart racing, "I've come to realize that my admiration for you goes beyond the classroom. You inspire me, not just as a scholar, but as a person. I appreciate how you embrace your journey, and it makes me want to understand you even more." Dr. Tver paused, her silver eyes widening slightly in surprise. "Luke, Before she could finish, he pressed on, feeling a rush of emotions surge within him. "I know that our relationship is built on the student-teacher dynamic, but I can't ignore the connection we share. It feels deeper than just academia. I care about you, and I want to support you through your journey of self-discovery." A moment of silence hung between them, heavy with unspoken words. Dr. Tver searched his face, her expression a mix of surprise and contemplation. "This is unexpected," she said softly. "I've always maintained a boundary between my personal life and my professional responsibilities. It's how I've navigated the complexities of being a professor." "I understand that," Luke replied, his voice steady but vulnerable. "But I believe that connections are what make us human. It's not about breaking boundaries, it's about expanding them. We can support each other in our journeys." Dr. Tver took a step back, her gaze drifting to the stars above. "You are insightful, Luke, but we must consider the consequences of crossing those boundaries. I have spent my life carefully constructing a professional identity, and to open that door, it frightens me." "I don't want to rush you into anything," Luke reassured her, his heart pounding. "But I also don't want to hide what I feel. You've encouraged me to explore my emotions, and I want to extend the same encouragement to you." She met his gaze again, and for a fleeting moment, Luke felt a wave of connection wash over them. "Perhaps," she said slowly, "this is a journey we can navigate together, but we must be mindful of our circumstances. I have to consider the implications of our relationship, both personally and professionally." "I understand," he said, his heart hopeful yet cautious. "I'll respect whatever pace you choose. I just wanted you to know where I stand." With that, they continued their walk under the stars, a sense of unspoken understanding lingering in the air. Luke felt a mixture of hope and uncertainty, knowing that the road ahead would be complex. But he also sensed that they were embarking on a journey that could change both of their lives in profound ways. As the days turned into weeks, the discussions between Luke and Dr. Tver became more reflective, often touching on the nature of connections and the significance of embracing vulnerability. Each encounter left Luke feeling inspired, but he remained aware of the uncharted territory they were navigating, one filled with potential, yet fraught with risks. One afternoon, during a quiet moment in the library, Luke decided to take a different approach. "Dr. Tver," he began, "what if we looked at the lessons of history as a guide for our own lives? The mistakes of the past offer insights into how we can grow. Couldn't we learn from the emotional turmoil of the Thulans and the Vornok?" "Absolutely," she replied, her eyes brightening. "History is a reflection of our collective journey. Just as the Thulans faced their emotional struggles, we too can confront ours. What matters is how we choose to engage with those lessons." "What if we created our own narrative?" Luke suggested, his excitement bubbling to the surface. "A story that explores the connections between our experiences and the emotional lessons we've uncovered through history." Dr. Fur considered this, her expression contemplative. That could be a valuable exercise. By intertwining our journeys with those of the civilizations we study, we can foster a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. And so, they embarked on a new adventure, one that would blend their personal reflections with the lessons of the past. Together, they began crafting a narrative that intertwined their experiences with the emotional histories of various alien civilizations. They delved into the depths of their emotions, exploring how fear, love, loss, and triumph shaped not only the course of history, but also their own lives. As they worked on this project, Luke felt a sense of exhilaration. He had always been passionate about history, but now it was becoming a vessel for personal growth. Each discussion with Dr. Fair illuminated new pathways of understanding, weaving their individual narratives into a larger tapestry that transcended the boundaries of academia. Days turned into weeks as they poured their hearts into the project, often losing track of time in the process. Late nights were spent in the library, surrounded by books, sketches, and shared laughter as they explored the emotional landscapes of the civilizations they studied. Luke felt a growing bond with Dr. Fair, a sense of partnership that extended beyond the classroom. With every shared story and every exploration of their feelings, he felt as though they were creating a unique universe of their own. But as their collaboration blossomed, so too did the reality of their situation. Luke couldn't shake the feeling that their relationship was on the brink of transformation, teetering between friendship and something deeper. Every glance shared, every laugh exchanged felt charged with potential, yet both of them remained cautious, aware of the fine line they were walking. One evening, as they reviewed their work under the dim light of a study lamp, Luke gathered his courage once more. "Dr. Fair, I know we've been focused on the project, but I can't help but feel that there's more we need to discuss. Our connection is growing, and I believe it's time to address what that means for us." Dr. Fair looked up, her expression serious. "Luke, I value our collaboration and the trust we've built, but we must tread carefully. Emotions can complicate things, and I don't want to jeopardize what we've created together." "I understand," he replied, his voice steady yet filled with longing. "But I also believe that embracing those emotions can enrich our journey. We've already seen how understanding history requires acknowledging vulnerability. Can't we apply that to ourselves?" Her gaze softened, and for a moment, Luke could see the flicker of possibility in her eyes. "Perhaps you're right," she conceded slowly. "But it is a leap of faith. We must be prepared for the consequences of crossing that threshold." With a shared sense of understanding, they continued their work on the project, but now there was a new energy between them, a subtle tension that whispered of unspoken feelings. As they explored the emotional narratives of the civilizations they studied, Luke couldn't help but reflect on their own journey. In the weeks that followed, Luke and Dr. Fair immersed themselves in their research, drawing parallels between their lives and the emotional landscapes of the alien civilizations. They found themselves examining the complexities of love, loss, and resilience, often finding moments of inspiration that resonated deeply with their own experiences. One afternoon, while poring over a particularly poignant story about the fall of the Calirian Empire, Luke was struck by an idea. "Dr. Fair," he said, looking up from his notes, "what if we explored the theme of redemption in our narrative? Many civilizations faced their downfall, but also found ways to rise from the ashes. We could look at how individuals and societies can reclaim their identities after tragedy." "That is an excellent point," she replied, her eyes lighting up with excitement. "Redemption is a powerful theme. It speaks to the resilience of the human, or Alari, spirit. It reflects the idea that even after suffering, there is hope for healing and growth." They began to weave stories of redemption into their project, drawing on the emotional journeys of historical figures and the lessons they imparted. Luke felt invigorated by the process, as if they were not just uncovering the past, but also forging a path toward a hopeful future. One evening, as they worked late into the night, Luke couldn't ignore the feelings that had been bubbling beneath the surface. The atmosphere was charged with creativity, and he sensed that this was the moment to express what had been on his mind. Dr. Fur, he began, his voice steady despite the racing of his heart. As we explore these themes of redemption and resilience, I can't help but think about our own journey. I want to be honest with you about how I feel. She turned to him, her expression serious yet open. I appreciate your candor, Luke. Please, go on. I believe that our connection has evolved into something truly special, he said, the weight of his words hanging in the air. You've inspired me in ways I can't fully express. I care about you deeply, and I think it's important for us to acknowledge that. A moment of silence stretched between them, and Luke held his breath, searching her face for a response. Finally, Dr. Fur smiled, a warmth radiating from her gaze. I feel it too, Luke. Our bond has grown stronger, and I've come to value our connection immensely, but I still worry about the implications of this relationship. I understand, he said, his heart hopeful, but perhaps this connection is what will allow us both to grow. We can navigate the challenges together, just as we've explored the complexities of history. Dr. Fur took a deep breath, her gaze steady. You are right. Embracing this connection could be the next step in both our journeys. But let's take it slow. We can still support each other in our academic pursuits while exploring what this means for us personally. With that, they reached a mutual understanding, and Luke felt a wave of relief wash over him. As they continued their work, a new sense of clarity emerged, intertwining their personal lives with their academic pursuits. Each day brought them closer, not just as scholar and student, but as individuals willing to embrace the beauty of their connection. And so, their journey continued, a dance of vulnerability and exploration that transcended the boundaries of their roles. Together, they would navigate the complexities of their emotions, drawing strength from the lessons of the past as they forged a path toward an uncertain but hopeful future. The echoes of history and the promise of redemption intertwined, guiding them through the vast universe of possibilities that lay ahead. The convergence of paths. As winter settled over the galactic University of Traxxas, the landscape transformed into a realm of shimmering ice and distant stars. The campus became a tapestry of silvery frost, with students bundled in layers as they hurried between classes. For Luke Ashford and Dr. Sulfur, the chill in the air contrasted sharply with the warmth of their growing connection. They had entered a new chapter in their relationship, one filled with promise, understanding, and the shared desire to explore the depths of their emotional landscapes. With each passing day, their collaboration flourished. They spent countless hours poring over historical texts, weaving together narratives that merged their personal experiences with the lessons of the civilizations they studied. The themes of redemption, resilience, and emotional expression became the foundation of their project, creating a rich tapestry that reflected not just the past, but also their evolving bond. One crisp afternoon, they found themselves in the university library, surrounded by the hushed whispers of pages turning and the faint glow of holoscreens. Luke sat across from Dr. Tver, engrossed in a passage about the Zareth people, a civilization known for their profound emotional expressions through art and music. He couldn't help but marvel at the parallels between the Zareth and the journey they had undertaken together. Look at this, he said, pointing to a passage that described how the Zareth used their art to heal after a devastating war. They believed that by expressing their pain and grief through creativity, they could rebuild their society. It's a powerful reminder of the resilience we've been discussing. Dr. Tver leaned in closer, her silver eyes sparkling with excitement. Exactly. The Zareth exemplify the idea that art can be a catalyst for healing. Just as they found solace in their creativity, we too can harness our experiences to navigate our own emotions. As they delved deeper into the Zareth's story, Luke felt a surge of inspiration. What if we incorporated a creative element into our presentation? We could share our own artistic interpretations of these themes, our journey of healing through history. Dr. Tver's expression brightened, and she nodded enthusiastically. That's a brilliant idea, Luke. We can create visual art pieces or even perform a narrative piece that captures the essence of our exploration. It would allow us to embody the very principles we've been discussing. The idea ignited a fire within Luke, and they quickly began brainstorming ways to infuse their project with creativity. They discussed potential artistic mediums, ranging from paintings and sketches to written narratives and dramatic readings. With each suggestion, their excitement grew, fueled by the possibility of expressing their shared journey in a way that transcended traditional academic boundaries. As they worked late into the evening, the library's atmosphere transformed into a cocoon of creativity. Their laughter echoed softly, and the once quiet space pulsed with the energy of their collaborative spirit. Luke couldn't help but marvel at how this project had evolved, not just as an academic endeavor, but as a testament to their emotional growth and connection. But as the days turned into weeks, Luke sensed an undercurrent of uncertainty in Dr. Fur. While their bond had deepened, she still grappled with the implications of their relationship. He watched as she occasionally withdrew into herself, her expression thoughtful and distant. It was clear that the past still lingered, casting shadows over their present. One evening, as they finalized their creative elements in the library, Luke decided it was time to address the elephant in the room. Dr. Fur, he began cautiously, "I've noticed you've been a bit quieter lately. Is everything okay?" She looked up, surprise flickering across her face. "I appreciate your concern, Luke. It's just," she hesitated, searching for the right words. "While I'm excited about our project, I find myself reflecting on the boundaries we discussed. I've never allowed myself to be so open with someone before, and it's both exhilarating and terrifying." Luke nodded, his heart aching at her vulnerability. "I understand. It's a lot to navigate, especially given your past. But I want you to know that I'm here for you, no matter what. We can take things at a pace that feels comfortable." She smiled softly, gratitude shining in her eyes. "You have a way of making me feel safe, Luke. I want to embrace this connection, but I also need to confront my fears. The journey of opening up is daunting, especially when it comes to matters of the heart." "Let's face those fears together," he suggested, his voice steady. "We've explored so much about history and emotion. Now we can do the same with ourselves. Perhaps we could dedicate a section of our project to sharing our stories, to revealing how our experiences have shaped us." Dr. Fur considered his proposal, her expression thoughtful. "That could be an important step for both of us. Sharing our stories might help us understand each other more deeply, bridging the gap between our pasts and our present." With a renewed sense of purpose, they began to outline the personal narratives they would share. Luke felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. This was uncharted territory for both of them. They decided to approach their stories with honesty, exploring their emotional journeys and the lessons they had learned along the way. As the weeks progressed, they crafted their narratives with care, intertwining their experiences with the historical themes they had studied. Luke reflected on his own journey, from a curious student to a young man grappling with his identity and the challenges of connecting with others. He wrote about the emotional turbulence he had experienced, the fears that had held him back, and the strength he found in embracing vulnerability. Dr. Fur, in turn, shared her own struggles, the weight of expectations, the loss of her mentor, and her journey towards self-acceptance. With each word, she peeled back the layers of her guarded exterior, revealing the complexities of her character. Luke was struck by her bravery. It took immense strength to confront her past and share it so openly. As they prepared for their presentation, the energy between them felt charged with possibility. The act of sharing their stories had brought them closer, fostering a bond that transcended the confines of traditional student-teacher dynamics. Luke could sense that Dr. Fur was beginning to embrace her emotions, and he admired her courage to confront the shadows of her past. The day of their presentation arrived, and the lecture hall buzzed with anticipation. Students filled the seats, eager to witness the culmination of Luke and Dr. Fur's journey. As they stepped onto the stage, Luke felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. "Welcome, everyone," Dr. Fur began, her voice steady yet warm. "Today, we will share with you not only the stories of ancient civilizations, but also our own narratives, how the lessons of history have shaped our emotional journeys. Luke took a deep breath, his heart racing as he stepped forward. We've explored the themes of resilience, redemption, and the power of emotion. But as we delve into these topics, we also want to emphasize that our experiences are not isolated. They are part of a greater tapestry of human existence. As they wove together their personal narratives with the historical themes, Luke felt a surge of connection with the audience. He shared his story, the challenges he faced in forging connections, his struggles with fear, and the profound impact Dr. Tfer had on his journey. He spoke with passion, his words resonating with the crowd as they witnessed his transformation. Dr. Tfer followed, sharing her own story with a grace that left the audience captivated. She spoke of the loss she endured and how it propelled her to embrace her emotions, to understand the depth of her own humanity. "It is through vulnerability that we find strength," she concluded, her voice steady. "Each of us carries our own stories, and it is in sharing them that we create a sense of belonging." As they finished their presentation, the room erupted in applause, the energy electric with appreciation and understanding. Luke glanced at Dr. Tfer, her eyes sparkling with pride and relief. They had done it. They had shared their stories and embraced their vulnerability, forging a deeper connection not only with each other, but also with their peers. After the presentation, students flocked to them, eager to share their thoughts and reflections. Luke felt a wave of warmth wash over him as he engaged in conversations about the importance of emotional expression and the lessons they had shared. It was a transformative moment, and he could see the impact their narratives had on those around them. Amid the excitement, Luke felt a familiar pull toward Dr. Tfer. They found a quiet corner of the hall, away from the bustling crowd, where they could reflect on the experience together. "I can't believe we did it," Luke said, a smile spreading across his face. "That felt incredible." Dr. Tfer nodded, her expression glowing with enthusiasm. "It truly was. Sharing our stories allowed us to connect with our audience on a deeper level. I felt liberated in a way I haven't experienced in years." Luke's heart swelled with admiration. "You were amazing up there. Your strength and vulnerability inspire me every day." A soft blush colored Dr. Tfer's cheeks, and she looked down, a shy smile playing on her lips. "Thank you, Luke. Your honesty and passion resonated with everyone. You've come so far, and I'm proud to have been a part of your journey." In that moment, the weight of unspoken emotions hung between them, and Luke felt the urge to bridge the gap once more. "Dr. Tfer," he began, "as we continue to explore our connection, I want you to know that I'm here for you. We've both taken significant steps, and I believe there's so much more we can discover together." Dr. Tfer's expression softened, and she took a step closer, their eyes locking in a moment of shared understanding. "I feel the same way, Luke. Our connection is special, and I want to embrace it fully, but we must navigate this path with care." "I agree," he replied, his heart racing with anticipation. "We can take our time. What matters is that we're honest with each other and ourselves." With a shared sense of purpose, they stood together, ready to embark on the next chapter of their journey. The transformation they had undergone, both individually and as partners, had set the stage for a deeper exploration of their emotions and connection. As the winter chill settled over the campus, Luke and Dr. Tfer faced the future with hope and determination. Together, they would continue to explore the lessons of history, the depths of their own emotions, and the unfolding narrative of their lives. Two paths converging into one, united by a shared understanding of the power of vulnerability and connection. The universe stretched before them, filled with endless possibilities, and they were ready to embrace whatever came next.